Hey guys, this is N.M.Z from Engineering Symbiosis, posting my last video lecture before my month hibernation, because I'm burning out mentally, hitting an academic wall, but that's okay. I don't really want to be rolled into sustainability anyway. That's the whole point of a Kuhnian scientific revolution. But I just wanted to make this last video to walk you guys through my main paper that I posted twice on my channel, at least the two versions, just because the PDF version never actually showed the proper schematics in the recordings, and as well as the pictures of the equations that I developed. So I'm just going to walk you guys through and just explain why I structured this paper the way that I did and why it doesn't seem as broad and abstract as it might seem at first. So I'm just going to drop down here to the first equation. Alright, so as you guys know, I changed the main central equation by adding a regenerative or a scalar vector, r squared, into the CNBC function of the equation, not just to imply the conservation of natural biogeochemical cycles through artificial urban biogeochemical cycles, but actual, not just their conservation, but their active repair and regeneration, hence r squared. So yeah, so symbiotic effectiveness of any given built environment with its natural environment through biogeochemical link equals matter plus energy plus information divided by the time it takes to exchange matter, energy, and information times the conservation of natural biogeochemical cycle regeneration squared times the building or built environment's ability to fulfill a successful ecological niche over time, NEC. Okay, that is the static state as I have defined before in my lecture video. The second version of the central equation, the dynamic state, this is meant to describe how a biogeochemical metabolic system inside of any building or built environment would actively prevent biological erosion, material fatigue, and biological fouling. If you're familiar with my paper readings before, the timed biogeochemical cycle interval, TBCI. Now, as you might know if you're familiar with my body of theory, the timed biogeochemical cycle interval is meant to give the building and built environments natural rest, so that, again, like organisms, be it plant, animal, or fungal, all organisms, be it plant, animal, or fungal, or microbial, need to have metabolic rest to avoid metabolic degradation and biological degradation. So a building to truly emulate nature, unlike aesthetic biomimetic architecture, and purely aesthetic so-called symbiotic architecture or metabolic architecture, which is again purely metaphorical. It actually is the TBCI the time biogeochemical cycle interval variant of the time derivative proves that even theoretically I've already designed a conceptual biogeochemical cycling architectural system that better emulates nature than all of the best examples of biomimetic architecture, so-called metabolic architecture, and so-called symbiotic architecture, So there you go. And down here it's just the central equation represented in specific ecological mechanical vectors to plug in to solve for any building future soft robotic artificial internal biogeochemical cycle buildings with aquaponics, aeroponics, hydroponics, and living machine wastewater treatments systems and microbial fuel cells. Okay, I'm going to move on quickly. And again, as I really just want to emphasize, please don't forget that our regeneration squared is now officially part of the central equation. Now, here is the first illustration. I never got to show you guys on either recordings of on either iterations of my paper readings. So this is meant to demonstrate how even though it's not obviously a perfect demonstration, a perfect schematic, because I've said repeatedly, none of my artificial intelligence schematics based off my written schematics are perfect representations, but it does show you how a building could cycle its own waste produced by animals, human occupants, and turn it back into organic fertilizer and nutrient vectors to restore local ecosystems around urban environments, to make the urban environments over time life-conducive environments itself. So there you go. And so the interesting thing about the second schematic version of this same schematic, or the same diagram, is that on the left-hand side it shows the standard symbiotic architecture, or UENP architecture, inside of a city, tending toward ecological regeneration within urban ecological spaces or pre-existing green spaces. And over here, to the right, is the same symbiotic building methodology, or UENP building methodology, in a a natural environment away from a dense urban sprawl environment. So in a cabin forested environment, or natural park, or a nature conservation center for people to work at and gather data on the nature conservation site and see how ecosystems are holding up. So again, my symbiotic UENP building methodology is meant to work in both urban, dense, sprawling environments to turn urban environments over time into ecologically prosthetic systems, hence here, which is why I primarily rely on using pre-existing entry and access points, e.g. windows, air ventilation systems, sewage systems, water pipes, etc., to already use to build the future ecological and biogeochemical bionic connection points, because that wouldn't require a complete overhaul of the entire building. And as you know, I'm a big fan of retrofitting instead of building new ecological buildings from scratch, because that's just doesn't make any sense. That literally just goes back into the hyper-extractive loop. But anyway, here is the visual schematic that is so far the best visual schematic of the general concept of symbiotic or UENP architecture I've been able to come up with so far. This is literally, let me just zoom out, the symbiotic urban natural hydrosphere. So you guys can take a look. And as I've said multiple times through all my lecture videos and all my recordings, these aren't meant to be exact blueprints, just visual aids to help you just understand a new form of ecological urban technology and architecture. And you see exactly where the inflows and outflows of organic matter, energy, and information are happening with the building, hydrosystems, and the aquatic ecosystems. Literally mimicking or mirroring a cell membrane, which is more of a true ecological or natural emulation of nature than biomimicry and biomimetic architecture. Okay? So I'm going to go all the way down to my second equation. Now, a lot of you guys who probably listened to or read through on mute both of my iterative versions of my paper probably were like, if this was about biogeochemical cycling architecture with soft robotics, why did you include artificial intelligence and computer infrastructure? Well, for one thing, I was extremely resource constrained and still am, so I had to use the only tools I have available to me to try to test my theory, and I was already very fluent in computer science and engineering. It was one of the first sciences beyond natural sciences that got me into engineering, so I'm well aware of the limitations and boundaries of artificial intelligence even as it continues to evolve, because I continuously test for hallucinations and sycophantic compliance again and again and again to make sure I'm getting consistent results. So I'm going to zoom out again. This is the symbiotic equation for deep learning effectiveness. Symbiotic effectiveness equals data symbiosis equals the negative energy coefficient divided by the negative coefficient of energy divided by the computational complexity per each generation cycle. And you guys can just If you find my voice annoying, as I always say, you guys can mute my voice, especially with this video, and just look through my scrolling of my paper itself. So again, I'm going to just walk you guys through this quick because I didn't get to show you guys the visual parts of this paper. And the reason, again, the second reason why I have a separate or dual section, completely unrelated, superficially, again, only superficially unrelated to biogeochemical cycling architecture via soft robotics, aeroponics, aquaponics, and living machine wastewater treatment systems and microbial fuel cells, is because this paper was meant to infer, if not implicitly, that any future artificial intelligence and computer infrastructure would be integrated into biogeochemical cycling architecture, including data centers and server farms that run artificial intelligence and the internet, etc. So that's why I did a dual section just related to computation and artificial intelligence, even though superficially it seemed unrelated, but actually when you apply my central concept of biogeochemical cycling architecture with soft robotics, with the natural environment, to computer infrastructure and architecture, as well as data processing centers, it actually isn't unrelated. It just looks that way because maybe I didn't explicitly say all future symbiotic artificial intelligence and computer data processing centers, would be integrated into biogeochemical cycling architecture. And I already have a design for that called the Symbiotic Data Center and Server Farm, which is the picture on the thumbnail of my second most latest uploaded video of my actual empirical proof of my 35.7% efficiency gain over traditional soda green AI subroutines and meta search routines. So I'm going to keep going. And oh yeah, funny thing about me putting this quote here, and I'm going to read it again. There's something inherently problematic in the framing of sustainability that implies the best that you can do is aspire. There's something inherently problematic in the framing of sustainability that implies that the best you can do. The framing of sustainability that implies that the best you can do, aspire to, is neutrality, and anything less than that is just part of a degenerative downward cycle. Michael Pollan, Biomimicry in Architecture, 2016. The top biomimetic architectural specialist even admits that sustainability itself is a linguistically decaying term that means less and less scientifically over time, as sustainability and even biomimicry itself fails to meet any of the ecological regenerative benchmarks set either by United Nations or independent ecological science citizen groups or ecological and environmental university departments. So there you go. And obviously, I just want to reread my three main critiques of biomimicry. So, biomimicry is often cited by its most ardent supporters to eventually lead to a cascade of breakthroughs. Yet, despite all the major cited breakthrough examples of which are positive attempts and advancements in their own right, it could be reasoned. A cascade of breakthroughs. Yet, despite all the often cited so-called breakthrough examples of which are positive attempts and advancements in their own right, it could be reasoned that standard biomimicry form and ecosystem biomimicry function, that both their biggest engineering and scientific flaws or blind spots can be crucially identified in two areas. 1. The first flaw of biomimicry and ecosystem biomimicry is the intrinsic lack of any physical or energetic means to establish a metabolic exchange required to directly interface with the natural surrounding environments and the plethora of ecosystem, biological, biochemical, biogeochemical, and other physical ecological markers indicating improved planetary health from the previous pre-symbiotic ecological health intervention state or any research research area in question. Example. Example. A biomimetic building's interior may regulate heat like an African termite mound, but is void of any means to purify air from inside the building, before being expelled back outside, leading to the same negligible or negative effect on primary ecosystem services, air. The second flaw of biomimicry or ecosystem biomimicry is the inherent lack of any intrinsic strategy or integration with other separate biomimetic technologies and architectures or systems to work as a unified or semi-unified whole on or at any level, e.g., cybernetic information and control theory. Example. One second here. Example. A tidal wave turbine shaped like a whale fin may reduce harmful sonic wave pressure. A tidal power turbine shaped like a whale fin may reduce sonic pressure waves, but has no means of sharing real-time marine biology data to track migration patterns of different marine animals, adjusting its sonic harmful vibration frequencies range unique to each specific aquatic species or any other unforeseen ecological harmful effects in its facility. So yeah, again, I'm not saying a tidal power turbine shaped like a whale fin is a bad idea. It's great that it reduces friction and is less harmful toward aquatic ecosystems and animals. But again, it lacks any means of integration with other aquatic biomimetic technologies and doesn't have any means of cybernetic communication to adjust its data, adjust its frequency, adjust any of its energetic or mechanical inputs or outputs in real time, or allow a crew to monitor it in real time and make analog human adjustments itself. And again, if I were to just summarize the first point in one sentence, it would be biomimicry's inherent lack and ecosystem biomimicry's inherent lack of biogeochemistry, which I don't know how they completely missed. I don't know why I'm the one that suddenly figured out this blind spot, but here I am doing it. Alright guys, so I just wanted to walk you guys through my paper one more time because you guys didn't get to see any of the visual schematics that I generated, which again, blow all of standard sustainable architecture and biomimetic architecture images generated by AI out of the water because I generated these carefully off of my carefully written schematics that I made on my computer. So there's a reason why mine looks super distinct from other forms of biomimetic and sustainable architecture. Alright guys, so that was me just giving you guys a quick walkthrough for 20 minutes of the paper. Again, the Symbionicsphere, engineering, biogeochemical symbiosis with the biosphere, as the successor to Vladimir Ivanovich Vernadsky's 1926 The Biosphere.